Three Canadian members of parliament from three different political parties giving a joint news conference to media presenting a united front against the big bad tech giants like Google and Meta, who have threatened to yank all Canadian news from their sites. And what does the government minister do?
Today, we are announcing the Government of Canada will be suspending advertising on Facebook and Instagram.
He threatens Meta, suspends all Government of Canada advertising on their platforms, which adds up to like $10 million worth of ads, which is like nothing to Meta. It's peanuts. No, you know what? It's less than peanuts. It's like peanut dust, because Meta made more than $100 billion US last year. So $10 million Canadian dollars is nothing. But here's the thing. For those MPs who started this fight in the first place by insisting Meta and Google pay for linking or sharing Canadian news content on their sites, this is just the beginning.
They've received billions of dollars from Canada. Now it's time for them to give back.
So today, what is this new law of the land requiring big tech to pay to put Canadian news on their platforms? Why are they so dead set against it? And is this actually the beginning of a worldwide reckoning for the biggest internet companies on the planet?
This is not just a dispute over advertising, it's also a dispute over democracy. We're not backing down on this. This goes to the core of a free and informed society.
So what is so scary that major tech giants like Google and Meta are willing to go so far as to cut Canadian news right out of their services? Well, the Online News Act, passed last week, basically requires them to negotiate deals with Canadian media companies, compensating them anytime their news content is used or shared. So let's say I'm just some dude, and I Google Bill C-18 Online News Act because, I heard about it on TV and I want to learn more about it. So you see these news links here. We got one from CBC News, one from the Globe and Mail, one from Global News, the Canadian ones here. The goal of the bill would be to force Google to compensate those companies for sharing their content. How much compensation? Well, the act doesn't say. It only says that the two sides have to negotiate, and this is directly from the legislation, they provide for fair compensation to the news businesses for the news content that is made available. The reaction?
Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, now says it will block news content on its platforms if the bill is passed.
Yeah, they hate the idea. And why wouldn't they, right? They'd have to start paying for what they currently do for free. They'd have to negotiate individual deals with Canadian news organizations. And if they can't, there's a whole formal bargaining process through mediation that can last for months. So they've threatened, if this bill takes effect as planned in about 6 months from now, they will cut out all Canadian news from their search engines, from their news pages, Facebook, Instagram, Google Discover, all gone. Meta is already even running a test, cutting about 5% of Canadian users off Canadian news. News is very much a struggling industry. It's been on the decline for many years now.
Fresh round of massive layoffs hit the Canadian media industry today. Bell Canada announces cutting 1,300 positions and closing or selling 9 radio stations.
In the last 15 years, hundreds of newsrooms across Canada have shut down. Newspaper subscriptions have plummeted. TV viewership is in the tank.
Among them, CTV is shutting down its news bureaus in London and Los Angeles.
And increasingly, present company included, people get their news from Google, from social media, right? Like basically anywhere I can get quick, small bites on my phone. It's a vicious cycle because, we're all on our phones. Advertisers pay to be there. And so if you're the Kamsack Times in Saskatchewan and you've lost advertising revenue, maybe you can't afford to keep all your reporters on staff. The quality of news suffers accordingly. Readership declines. And where do those readers end up?
80% of all the money from online advertising is going to do companies. So they're making money. Good for them. Good for them. We're happy for them. But they have to contribute in a fair way.
The Online News Act is a way to keep newsrooms in business by returning some of that advertising money. But, you might ask, aren't they still getting ad money if people are clicking on their links? Well, just because you click a CBC article doesn't mean you stay very long on the CBC site. It might surprise you to learn retention in our business is often measured in seconds, not always minutes. And after you scroll through an article, you'll probably just go right back to Facebook or Google or wherever you came from. And the bulk of the ad dollars stay with big tech. Big news corporations have been in favor of this leveling of the playing field for a long time. The Toronto Star is on board. They've even already signed content sharing deals with Meta and Google. And CBC's corporate position, just for full transparency here, is also pro C18, pro Online News Act. But other media outlets have spoken on Parliament Hill about what would happen if Google and Meta made good on their threat.
These platforms are the best on-ramp to news that we have found, and we have tested many. Today, Google and Facebook combined generate almost 50% of our traffic on an ongoing basis.
And it should go without saying, losing 50% of your traffic is bad. This is the very definition of being stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Being so reliant on Meta and Google has crippled ad revenue for newsrooms. But if you don't have Meta and Google sending people your way, do you survive at all? That's been Google's argument from the start, that they're actually acting almost like a free newsstand. People walk by, they see some Canadian news, they read it. That's ultimately good for Canadian news, because are you really going to fault the newsstand for becoming the dominant way people find and read your articles? For Google, they think of the Online News Act as a link tax. Every time someone clicks a link, bam, Google gets charged. And their criticism of the bill is that it would seem to allow for uncapped financial liability that, quote, no business could accept.
News aggregators like Google News have to pay publishers for showing extracts of their articles.
Meta saying that it will potentially pull news content from Facebook. This will in fact happen, they're saying, if Congress passes a new bill.
The Journalism Preservation Act, a bill under consideration in Sacramento that would require Facebook, Google, and Microsoft to pay usage fees to local news outlets.
So make no mistake, Canada is not alone in this fight. Americans are very much fighting it too. In California, there are efforts to impose a so-called journalism usage fee, very much following the Canadian example. But Meta is dead set against that too. They've threatened to pull news out of California. France recently took on Google, arguing that it breached copyright laws by publishing and reusing news content that wasn't theirs, and Google had to pay up. Then there's Australia.
Australia has passed a new law that requires digital platforms to pay local media outlets to link to their content in news feeds or in search results.
They're a few years ahead of us, but in a very similar situation. So according to The Guardian, for every $100 of online advertising spending, get this, $53 went to Google, $28 went to Facebook, and that leaves, if you do the math, $19 for everyone else. Digital dominated. So Australian lawmakers passed a similar law. Google and Meta both threatened to pull Australian news, but they worked through it. Amendments to the law were made, and now Google and Meta have struck dozens of deals with Australian news media. And the same thing might happen here in Canada, sort of.
Google wants to keep talking, discussing, finding a path forward. And it's also clear that Google's concern can be met by what we plan to do in the regulations. Meta, on the other side, is not talking to us unless they call this morning. I don't think so. So they took a different approach.
So what was originally a war between government and primarily two tech giants may end up being a war between government and Meta. But what we do know is that Canada is still a relatively small fish. The real test will be what impact the outcome here has on the rest of the world, following or not following suit.
The world is watching. The platforms know that we're at the table, we're ready to talk to them, we're open to discuss, but we're not open to doing nothing. Status quo is not an option.
Hello and welcome to one more Speak Your Mind. Tonight we are speaking about the online bill C-18 here, that is trying to regulate the news in Canada. For example, to put in a simple English, simple terms, people are not going to be able to go to Facebook or to their social media of choice and see the news that they want. Actually, we had an experience this week. Ms. Audrey, who it's a host here with us, she was trying to get some information about what was going on in Israel. And what happened, Ms. Audrey? By the way, good evening.
Good evening, Pastor, and welcome all to another episode of Speak Your Mind. And yeah, just like we were talking about, I believe it was Israel and Palestine that we had our show last week. And when I was looking up information, 1 minute it was there. I was watching this YouTube video, and then I tried to reference something when I went back online, and it didn't appear. It didn't allow me to see it. I went on Instagram, I went on Facebook, I went on YouTube, and all of these channels said that I was not allowed to see any of this content. And it was like shocking to me because just a few minutes ago, I was able to watch an entire video. And then as I was researching a little bit more, it started to say that it was not allowed I wasn't allowed to see these messages, these videos, anything at all in regards to whatever I was looking about. It didn't see any news at all.
And we are going to speak more about this tonight in the show. Pastor Giovanni is here with us too. Good evening, Pastor Giovanni.
Good evening, Pastor. This person who is watching us right now in this moment can give us a call right now if they want to talk to us, they want to speak their mind. What do you guys think about what has been going on with the passing of Bill C-18? 1-877-785-8700, or you can send us a message through WhatsApp right now, 437-233-9815. And as the program was going by, Pastor, we already got the first comment, which is Jeff from Kensington Market here in Toronto. He goes like this: well, since at the end of the day, it's business, A business can make its own mind about what it does and what it doesn't want on its website, services, so I wouldn't really consider it censorship. But I'm excited to see what the program holds. This person, Pastor, can continue calling, sending us comments, and throughout the program, we're going to be letting them speak their mind completely here on our program.
A business, I believe, for those who are making money. What about the creators, the creators' content, just like us, who depends on this for us to share the news and be able to speak about? What about the digital creators who are just beginning and they use things like this? Because if I'm not mistaken, creators are not going to be able to use this content unless they too pay a fee. Let us speak our mind. 877-785-8700. Ms. Audrey, I believe you have some comments for us.
Yes, Pastor, I have here Steve that says this is really, really bad. Trudeau must go. So in his opinion, he's already blaming the government, right? And we also have here Natalie that says 23 million Canadians use Meta. Even more use Google. Less than 500,000 ever go directly to the CBC website. It's baffling that the government could be this incompetent with this legislation. As the saying goes, don't assign malicious intent when this comes. And I checked out 5 to 7 stories, and they were useless to me because I was not able to actually see the news that was here presented. So Natalie herself was also frustrated because she was blocked from certain sites from actually seeing these things. And again, we want to invite you all to join our Telegram poll. Like always, we have this Telegram poll that you can go ahead and participate by scanning the QR code as it appears on your screen.
Actually, I was reading some news today, Pastor Giovanni, Ms. Audrey. It says that from 38 million people that we have here living in Canada, 33 million are connected somehow to the internet, to social media, to the internet. And out of those 33 million people who are connected, 28 million, this was updated in September, last September of this year, 28 or 27 million people are on Facebook. Now, I believe that most of these 27 million people, they go to Facebook to see the news, see what is going on. Now imagine their frustration to know that Facebook or Meta, or whatever they want to call it, it's now not showing the news they so much depended on. I think it's going to be a big problem. Well, we are here to speak your mind. You are welcome to call us at 877-785-8700. In a few, we are going to speak to our first callers. Before that, I want to go to the streets of Toronto and see what people here in Toronto are thinking about this. Let us watch.
Do you think there should be any limits to social media or how they can be made?
Limits to social media? No, because like in the use of it, really. No, because social media it has impact the world really in a good way. We're in terms of sales, marketing, you know, you're having awareness of things, global environment and stuff like that. So we can't limit it. It's when it's misused. That's when we are thinking about the limits, really. In terms of like kids and so on, I think maybe there should be a limit on the age limits. Kids being on TikTok where everything is out there, and YouTube making videos for themselves, maybe at the age 8 or whatever, so to speak. Maybe my opinion, I think they should be really concentrating on, being a child, growing up until when they're ready.
I suppose there is no limits for freedom of speech because everybody should have a possibility to say whatever they want, but also I think that it should be, tolerant to other people, so it shouldn't hurt anybody.
That's a tough one because like Instagram and Facebook, who has access to what goes on there, right? I don't know who has access to it, but whoever does have access to it, they should be the ones that stop, doing the stuff that I was saying. Like, swearing, cursing, saying meaningful bad things about a race or about a person, but whoever that person is that has control over either Facebook or Instagram, they should be the ones that stop it.
Well, obviously, I think that hate speech is terrible, and the limit kind of needs to be drawn where harm is done, and that doesn't necessarily mean physical harm or like violence, physical violence specifically, but just if your speech is having an effect on a person, then I don't think any amount of entitlement to what you say can defend you. Like you're free to say what you want, but that doesn't mean we need to actively protect what you're saying if what you're saying is causing trouble for folks.
I think you got to carry yourself respectfully and have other individuals in mind when you're speaking, but you should also be able to freely express yourself in a way, but with limitations of like respect. For example, if there's like children around, I'm going to watch my speech and stuff, you know what I mean, and respect all the cultures and all the different people in the world.
Certainly it's a kind of a founding right in our country, but yeah, there's lots of limits to it, like anything hate speech and anything with children's sexuality and all that kind of stuff it's important that all that gets kept in check. I think something that we're coming across now that hasn't necessarily been looked at yet is misinformation. And I think that might become something that's really important in the future, that that you can't just say anything you want and promote it as though it's the truth, right? We really need to kind of keep things on the level of truths and not truths. And I think misinformation is being used as a weapon now to anger people or to try and get people on your side so that they in the future are supportive of your cause, even though it's all fundamentally wrong. So I do find speech is important, freedom of speech, but certainly, as you know, it can only go so far, and there's always going to be ramifications for everything you say. So I think people have to understand that the freedom of speech is not a freedom to say whatever you want. There's going to be there's always going to be limitations to that. So I think that's important.
And how do you think we can also let other people know about what to do, how to make it more aware about speech or hate?
Yeah, it's hard. I feel like it's really about the individual. Like it really has to come from individuals talking to each other, because too much collective discussion, I think, caused some people to really dig their roots into what they already believe.
Yeah, it can hurt people a lot in social media. We shouldn't judge people for any reasons. I think so.
You're saying something bad about somebody or saying hurtful things about somebody. I think that should be like, they should draw the line there. Like it shouldn't be allowed, like on Instagram or Facebook.
Yes, because sometimes we have we say some things that can impact our lives. Really, yes, we have our own opinions. We are free to have our own opinions, but really, we have to think about our own future. So I believe in setting a future, really, to because especially with social media now, everything is not just in a small corner, but really it goes worldwide. So whatever you say, like now, whatever you say, it goes worldwide.
And there you have it. Feel free to join us next time.
From what I can tell, people are worried about what is going on online. They have restrictions on thinking that not everything should be online. And Pastor Giovanni and Ms. Audrey are here for people to speak their mind, because Bill C-11 does affect all the Canadians, the 38 million people living in this country. We have more comments, Pastor. Actually, Ms. Audrey, do we have more comments?
Yes, Pastor, we have here Stevie that says the whole idea is to punish the small outlets that can't be controlled and make the big ones dependent on government handouts. Too many Canadians aren't reading the op-eds, and it's making us work harder to arrange and to find out where we can get our information and news from, which in turn will cause people to give up and not want to look for the news anymore. and could care less. We also have Morrow that says, in a way, most of the news are behind a paywall like Global. They block you from reading anyway and forces a subscription on you. The only difference is you won't get feed from Global anymore when Google removes their links, which honestly doesn't seem bad because the links that it takes you to are garbage anyway. So in my opinion, I approve this bill because unlike most, I don't like when pop-ups come and send me to links that I don't want and nor want to see on my feed.
Now the question is, Pastor Giovanni, do you think paid news are going to be the same news as free news? Because that's what they want to do. They wanted to make what is free right now, and this is the biggest argument of Meta. They want to make something that is free to be paid. And we all know that everything that is paid is controlled. So who is going to determine what we are going to see on the news? Pastor Giovanni, we have Camila on the line. Please talk to her, please.
Perfect, Pastor. Let's connect her right now. Ms. Camila, can you hear us right now?
Yes, I can hear properly, Pastor.
Ms. Camila, good evening. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
We're good. We're good. We're asking everybody the following about Bill C-18, which is more of a limitation, more of a restriction on the news content, whether it be Google, whether it be Facebook. Do you think, Miss Camila, it's something that we need to worry about as Canadians, or do you think it's something that's rightfully so for us to be censored, for us to be a bit more filtered, for us to be a bit more limited on what we receive here in Canada?
Yes, Pastor. I think something that is going to concern us because, for example, I am on Facebook user, on Instagram user, so I got from the news from the social media. Once I have something that imposed by me that I have to pay, can get some limitations in my life. I have a good job, so but it's not only for me. I am just thinking of others, for those who doesn't like have access or conditions to pay. So I believe it's something that's gonna make it harder for people to know actually what's going on in the world, especially nowadays that we are living the end of time, that we are so near to the end. So it's gonna make people to believe that everything's okay. So what kind of access we can have it? So for me, it's very concerned, Pastor.
Now, Ms. Camila, I was going to read a comment here from a man named Joe from Quebec. And he said the following. He said, social media is more of an option. It's more of a choice. If it's something that you think is in the hands of someone else, just log off. For people who probably aren't accessible to Facebook, they're not someone connected so much to social media, do you think something like this would really impact them? The day-to-day Canadian, the worker, the blue-collar worker who goes in, who leaves work, do you think it's something that still will affect people who aren't so attached to social media?
Of course, imagine those people, they are attached, they depend on every single day on information because that's part of their routine. It's something that is gonna be imposed by them is gonna reflect on their lives, on their families, for sure. So I see as a very huge problem, Pastor.
Ms. Camila, thank you so much for speaking your mind with us. Have a good night, okay?
Thank you so much. May God bless you, Pastor. It was a pleasure.
Same to you. Pastor, this person can continue calling us right now in this moment, 877-785-8700, or through WhatsApp, they can send us a message, 437-233-9815.
Actually, I was speaking to somebody this week, and this person was telling me that Canada controls what goes out to the world, because whenever we are outside of Canada, we don't actually hear bad news from Canada. If you stop a second to think about it, those who, before they lived here, they lived somewhere else, you don't really hear bad things about Canada. You don't hear about the violence, the shootings. You don't hear none of this in the outside Canada news. Isn't this a way for them to control it too, what is going on in the medias? Well, Actually, last week on one of our other topics, Samantha, she spoke something very powerful when it comes to this. Let us watch a little bit of the take that we had from our last week program. I don't know if it's ready. Let us put it, please. Pastor Giovanni, we have Samantha on the line. She wants to speak her mind.
Perfect. Let's connect her now. Hello, Samantha. Can you hear us?
Hi, yes, I can hear you.
Miss Samantha, good evening. We're asking everybody the following question about everything that's been going on with Israel and Palestine, especially with the last bit of news that we have been receiving of the bombing in the hospital. We've been talking about it. We're even showing the photo now on screen. What do you think? Do you think it's something that Israel did cause? They launched the bomb, or do you think maybe it's Hamas? It was on their part, and it was just them trying to raise tension?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure because it seems like Hamas is giving their version of what happened, and then the Gaza side is giving their version of what happened. It just seems very confusing, and for a lot of people, because the news is being so restricted to us, especially here in Canada, it's very hard to follow and to really understand what is real and what's not.
Now, Ms. Samantha, do you think at a certain moment, for example, receiving that type of restrictions here in Canada, do you think it kind of filters out and you kind of miss out on information?
I think so, yes, because there's no reason why all of a sudden now the news is being filtered and people are being told what they can and cannot speak about or give their opinions on. This seems like it's way bigger than what's actually happening. This just seems like the war that's going on right now is like a small portion of what's yet to come, which is going to be something bigger for the world.
Ms. Samantha, thank you so much for speaking your mind with us. We hope you have a good night.
Actually, we just heard news that Samantha is in the hospital. Samantha, soon we're going to be praying for you to get better, okay? That was her opinion. She thought that people having their news filtered is very bad. And isn't this actually our prime minister said something very strong when it comes to this. Let us watch what Justin Trudeau said. We're going to be right back.
And so what happens is that the government and the Canadian news media get together and start aggressively pushing a narrative.
On the internet giants, we've seen Facebook and other companies post record profits over the past years, at the same time as local independent journalism has struggled in terms of getting news out to people in ways that matter locally. Now, Facebook is choosing to block Canadians' access to local news instead of paying their fair share. That's unacceptable. Canadians need to be able to access news. It's fundamental to our democracy. We're not going to put up with Facebook's bullying.
Well, he called it Facebook's bullying because they don't want to pay for something that today is free. We have Veronica on the line. Veronica, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Pastor.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Veronica, what is your opinion on this that is going on here in Canada? The way that the government wants news to get paid, and they want the big outlets, the CBC, Toronto Stars, the big news companies to get a share of the news that are posted on Facebook, on Google, and on social media. And on the other hand, we have these social media saying, no, we are not going to pay nobody. If the news is available, people should have the right to post, to comment about it without having to pay the news outlet. Do you think it should continue being free? Do you think it's fair for them to pay a share? Do Do you think it's a right for Facebook to censor and says, no, since they are not going to pay, we are not going to show? What is your opinion on this?
Yes, Pastor. I believe it's a little bit of controlling, I think, because we should have the right to have access to Facebook. I think what maybe they should do is just maybe ban other things that could be inappropriately, but not suspend, social media without access, because a lot of people like myself, I don't watch TV, but I like to use Facebook as my main source, not to post even pictures of myself or not, but just to watch church videos around Brazil or in Canada, right? So for me, that's like important, because I feel like I'm connected to that, right? And if that, is controlled, then, I would be a bit frustrated, because let's say other people who would want to have the free access to it, now they have to pay, or somebody who is in a different country, right? And they might not afford that fee.
Let me ask you this. When was the last time you went to a news website?
News website, I was in it maybe like 2 days ago.
So it's not, but I bet you went on social media today.
Yes, just to find out about the war, right? Things like that, and I feel like, yes, there's a lot of comments out there that are hurtful. Maybe that can be controlled,
Now, if you had to choose between, sorry to cut you off. If you had to choose between going to a news website like CBC, Toronto Stars, The Globe, whatever, and going to your Facebook page and being able to see the news, which one would you choose?
Repeat that again. I cannot hear you. Sorry.
For example, if you had to go to a news website, like for example, The Globe, and you had to choose between going to their website and going to your Facebook page and watching the news there on Facebook, what would you choose?
I would probably choose the Facebook, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by them taking all the news out of Facebook, it would actually harm you.
It would actually, yes. Because I think that there's a lot of clips that you can click on that, and it's your choice if you want to, right? If you want to watch that or not, right? So that's also an option.
Thank you very much, Veronica, for speaking your mind with us.
Okay, well, thank you, Pastor, for
Have a good night.
me on.
So, Pastor Giovanni, Ms. Audrey, the choice is there. Many people, I myself, I don't actually remember the last time I went to a website that is only for news. Most of my news I either get on an app or on social media. And I believe most Canadians do that too. Right, Pastor Giovanni?
Exactly, Pastor. We just got a message of someone who sent us this photo. They're from Vancouver, and they've been looking at certain news, yet they keep receiving this popping up in their screen.
What does it say?
So it says like this. It's a page, Vancouver's independent employee-owned TV station for more than 60 years. Then it says, people in Canada can't see your content.
That's the same message that I received.
So and then it's attached with the comment. I've never, in all my years being here, have been restricted of seeing something or showing something.
Can you take a screenshot of that and send it to our production so we can put it full screen?
We'll do it right now.
I want to see that full screen. So that's what you saw, Ms. Audrey, when you were trying to get online and you couldn't. That was the same message.
Correct, Pastor. Same message. And I even saw a lot of people actually posting. And shortly after I spoke about it, it was very strange because then I was actually able to see the information. So it was like at the same time, certain pages were blocked, and then a few minutes later, it was available for me to see.
Maybe they're listening to you.
So I don't know where it is
Hopefully
there.
they're not going to take our show down.
Right, Pastor. I actually want to read a comment, Pastor, from Marcia, that she says the Canadian government doesn't want to promote free speech when it comes to the truth of enlightening other people and making a positive impact on their lives. We have Jesse that says like this: I can't believe we built a world where we have given tech companies and social media so much control over our lives. Do we really need this? So I guess in his opinion, he thinks it's not necessary. Again, you can go ahead and share your comment, share your opinion on our show, Speak Your Mind, and send us a message 437-233-9815.
Sorry to have to cut you off, Pastor Giovanni. Go ahead and keep reading. What was it saying?
Yes, Pastor. And well, so they said that in all of their years being here, they have never been restricted of seeing the news like that. And as we were saying, Pastor, we sent it to the protection team. Another person sent us another screenshot of them trying to look at CBC News here in Canada, and says people in Canada can't see this content. So maybe you're somebody who's watching us right now and you say, I don't think it really affects me. Well, it's really important for us to consider all those factors, Pastor. And if this person wants to continue and even join in our poll, the QR code at the bottom of the screen, they can scan it, join our survey. At the end of the program, we're going to be showing the results, or the phone number, 877-785-8700.
I don't know if we have the screenshot already. If we do, put it, there we go. Vancouver Island Independent Employee-Owned TV station for 60 plus years. People in Canada, wow, cannot see your content. Content from news publications can't be viewed in Canada in response to Canadian government legislation. Well, imagine you going through your Facebook and you're trying to get some news and you can't because the government won't let you. Well, there you have it. We have one more segment that speaks that Trudeau passes new law targeting social media. Let us watch.
And so what happens is that the government and the Canadian news media get together and start aggressively pushing a narrative in which the failure of the Canadian news media is blamed on a very unsympathetic villain, which is the big American tech companies. Okay, so now what I'm going to say is not going to make any sense to you, so just be prepared. But what happens is that the Canadian media companies and the Canadian government begin pushing this line that the reason why the Canadian news media is failing is because the big American tech companies, specifically the social media companies, are actively stealing Canadian news. You know, when you go onto social media, Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and you start scrolling down your feed, you'll often see links to news stories that your friends or family are sharing. And this supposedly is the great theft that we're seeing. These sinister tech companies are allowing people to take content from Canadian news websites and distribute it on their platforms. And then the media companies say that this fact is causing them, millions and millions of dollars in lost revenue, and this is the reason why they can't make any money. Again, this really does not make any sense at all, because obviously the purpose of sharing a link is to get users of that social media to go and visit the website that that link is from. And the media companies obviously know this, which is why they themselves have active social media accounts that do nothing but post links to their own content on Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of it all day long. But anyway, despite the lack of logic, this is the argument that is now enshrined in Canadian law via Bill C-18. The main thing that Bill C-18 does is it mandates the big tech companies negotiate some sort of fair compensation with the Canadian media companies, based on the premise that the Canadian media companies are deserving some sort of compensation. It is sort of conceptually similar to, an employer negotiating with a union to come up with fair compensation for the workers. And again, similar to sort of how labor relations work, Bill C-18 gives the Canadian government the power to impose some sort of deal if the two parties cannot negotiate one themselves. The legislation literally uses a lot of labor-style terminology, bargaining, arbitration, and so on. Now, the tech companies, as you might imagine, do not accept the core premises of this bill, which is, again, the idea that they owe the Canadian media companies some sort of fair compensation for the fact that links to media company content is freely provided on their platforms. You know, the Minister of Canadian Heritage, who has sort of been the point man on this particular legislative file, he loves to use the line that the tech companies have to pay their fair share. Very sort of delightfully Randian turn of phrase. But it is very Randian in the sense that one of the main arguments that the Canadian media companies have made is just that the big sort of social media platforms are hogging all of the ad revenue that the internet has to offer. I've heard the numbers thrown around that like 80 to 90% of all advertising on the internet these days is just done on a couple of the big sort of tech platform websites. And then so the Canadian media companies are just like, hey, we deserve a share of that. And then the Canadian government is like, yes, pay your fair share. But yes, anyway, so the tech companies lobbied very, very hard against this legislation when it was sort of going through the parliamentary pipeline. But it passed anyway and was signed into law just a couple of days ago. And so the tech companies are now really playing hardball in response to the legislation becoming law. The other day, Meta, which is the company that, of course, controls Facebook and Instagram, announced that they are no longer going to allow the sharing of links to Canadian news publications on their platforms. And then, in addition to that, Google also announced that they are also not going to allow the sharing of links to Canadian news websites on their search engine. So the companies are basically calling the government's bluff on this. If you are going to say that sharing links is a form of theft, well then fine, we'll just make it so no one can share.
And if no one can share, no one can know. And if no one can know, no one can have an opinion. No one can speak their mind. 877-785-8700. We are coming to the end of the show, but before we go, I want to make a special prayer. We are going to make a special prayer to all those who are watching us. We are living dark days, and God is the only light that we can hold on to. And in dark days, people do crazy things. They are lost, and because they are lost, they make bad decisions. And when we see this, we see people suffering. It's what happened in the life of Anna. She suffered with depression and even suicidal thoughts. But she found the light, which is God. She found faith, and faith was able to change her life around. Stay connected with us. Let us watch the testimony of Anna, and afterwards, we're going to come back saying a special prayer.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm 36 years old, and my story began as a child. I lost my grandma when I was 10, and my grandmother, she meant a lot to me. My parents weren't as present as they should be. They worked a lot, and my mom, she used to travel a lot since she was a flight attendant, and my dad, he was a commercial pilot. Due to that, we felt kind of like left alone, left aside many times. So when my grandma passed away, that felt really hard on me, especially on me because I was really close to her. They didn't know at the time what depression was. So my mom just thought that I was a really sad young girl. And what happened one day was that I felt so bad about myself and about my image that I shut the bathroom door and I took an entire roll of pills, allergy pills that I had. And my mom, she started looking for me at home. And then she started knocking on the door and she saw that the door was locked. So she went on and she opened it. She saw me lying down there and she took me immediately to the hospital. I dealt with that until I was in adulthood. But I tried many times going to the shrink doing therapy. I tried taking medicine. I tried all the alternatives possible for me to get better. But it was not the solution. It was not the way that it should be. I didn't feel normal at all. And that lasted until I was 21, 22. And I met somebody when I was 22, and I thought that he was the man of my dreams. I thought that getting married, then if I did that, then that would be the answer. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he called and said that he didn't want me anymore, that the relationship was too distant, and that he didn't find that really productive. So he ended by the telephone. So that was really harsh on me. And what was the worst moment of my life was that one, because I felt like I was nothing. And then all of the bad thoughts, all of the negative thoughts. And I thought once more that I should end it. So I decided to leave it all and go back to my parents' house. She had a neighbor, and this neighbor, she asked my mom, she asked if her church could go make a visit, and the assistants could make a prayer on me, right? So what my mom said, she let them. It was an afternoon, and I couldn't sleep because in all those years, if I could sleep was due to taking sleeping pills. So I didn't know what was to have peace, to be able to sleep without anything, any kind of drugs. So I remember until this day that an assistant, he was kind of senior, and he looked at me and he told me, "You're going to sleep today." He was so assuring and he was so positive about it that it made me believe for a second that that might be true. So I wanted to test it. I wanted to see if that would work. So he came in and he was all patient and he made a prayer. And all of a sudden on that day, I said to myself, I'm not going to take anything just to make sure. And what happened was that I slept. I slept like a baby, and I didn't know that that was going to be possible someday for me. So that just triggered me to want to know more about it, about this God that he said that existed. They made an invite and telling me to go to church. And I accepted. I went to church without any expectations, but since everything else did not work, and they came in, they showed up at my mom's house, and it worked. I could sleep, and I was not feeling sad anymore. Then I was like, yeah, well, let me get there and see what is there for me. I started going to every chain of prayer, and what happened was that I saw improvements. Started finding interest on the Bible until I wanted more. I heard about the Holy Spirit, and I wanted that. I understood that in order for the Holy Spirit to live inside of me, then I should give my all. I went to the altar, decided that that was going to be it, that was going to be my answer. So on that afternoon, everything changed. I felt peace. I felt joy. Nowadays, I have a marriage. I'm married for 13 years now, and he's a wonderful husband. Now I don't need him or anybody else to make me happy. I'm already happy because God lives in me. I'm here today to tell you that there is healing for depression. I am healed.
Prepare a glass of water or get closer to your television screen. At this moment, we will have a special prayer to your name.
My God, it's in Jesus Christ's name that I pray for this person who's watching us right now and who has been going through situations that as much as they try to go forward, they're not able to. They take 2 steps forward, things get better for a couple of days, for a couple of weeks, but then it's as if they go back 5. It's as if all the progress they had is thrown out the window. This person who's watching us, who is sick This person, my Father, who inside of them, they feel very anxious, very insecure by what's been going on in the world. And there's no security inside of them. They have no certainty that everything is going to be okay. And that's why we turn to you, because your word, it says to make use of the time, because the days are evil. My Lord, the times that we are living aren't good times, but that's why you instruct us to make good use. And that's why we pray that in Jesus' name, this person right now receives this strength. You who have difficulty sleeping at night, you who have nightmares, you who have sleep paralysis, you who don't feel good during the night, be free right now, be healed right now. That this water, my Lord, that they're going to drink, that inside of them, it becomes that supplement, those vitamins, that medicine that they need for their body, for their mind, and for their soul. That is how I determine them blessed. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Amen. Let us drink of this water now in Jesus' name. Amen. We are arriving at the closing moments of our program. Ms. Audrey, I think we have the results of our poll, correct?
Yes, Pastor, we have here 36% that say, of course, we all need to have this type of filter. 23% that say, no, I don't agree. When will it stop? 14% say, I didn't know such a thing was possible. There are many people that weren't even aware of this, and we want you to stay connected, to stay tuned, because like this is your show, Speak Your Mind, you're able to give us a call and go ahead and continue to share your thoughts further. Last result is 27%. I don't have a good feeling about this. So there we have it, the last results for our show for tonight, Bill C-18.
I don't have a good feeling about it either, but what can we do?
We'll see what happens.
If you guys are watching us right now and inside of you, you say, you know what? I have a problem right now in my life that is maybe not related to social media, but it's a problem that I want to overcome. It's something that I really do want to change, whether it's in your marriage, it's with your children, it's inside of you, it's your health. Understand that you are the one who provokes that miracle. It's like I was saying in the book of Ephesians, it says that we must make good use of the time, because the days are evil, the days are bad. And that's why we invite you this Sunday to be with us, 10 o'clock in the morning, in our gathering of faith in miracles. 2420 Duffering Street. We're right there on the corner of Bowie Avenue, as you guys see on the screen. We're about a block and a half from Eglinton Avenue. You can take the 29 bus, the 929 bus, and you'll be right in front of our temple. All right? God bless all of you. We hope to see you soon. Have a good one.
Lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from my Lord, who made heaven and earth. He won't let my foot be moved. He who keeps me is the Lord, the one who keeps Israel. Will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is my keeper, He's the shade on my right hand. He keeps my soul, He protects me from all evil. He keeps my going out and my coming in, from now on and forever. me from all evil. He keeps my going out and my coming in, from now on and forever. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from my Lord, who made heaven and earth. He won't let my foot be